Welcome everyone to our Santa Fe Roadshow. And these roadshows are in partnership with Rent Responsibly. We have Bree here from Rent Responsibly. Thanks for joining us this morning. And my name is Heather. I'm the president of the board here at STRA. I'm here with Heidi, our business development membership lead for STRA. This event is also sponsored by Key Data Dashboard. So we've got Melanie from Key Data, who's going to walk through kind of the state of the market. And then we also are doing this in partnership with Vacasa. So we have a real estate perspective as well, with an expert in the short-term rental investment property real estate side of things. So CJ, thanks again for joining us. And then we also have Fran, who is an owner in the market, an expert owner entrepreneur. So we're super excited to have her on the line to be able to do a little Q&A with her. So with that, I will jump into our deck. We have 30 minutes. We're going to try to keep it really tight to the 30 minutes and then also leave a few minutes at the end for Q&A. So please use the chat, post questions throughout, and at the end, we'll try to leave some time to answer them. All right, let's jump in. And can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Good, all right. I think Heidi from here, we're gonna share kind of this intro, right? So we're gonna talk about who we are. If this is your first time interacting with the Association for Short-Term Rental Homeowners, we'll share a little bit about who we are. Rent Responsibly will do the same and specifically talk about what's happening in Santa Fe. And then we're going to look at some stats, talk to Fran, talk to CJ, and then again, the closing. All right, here we go. So our industry is growing, and this is just true across the board. You know, you as a short-term rental homeowner are an important stakeholder. And STRA was formed really because of that need to be able to provide a non-biased resource for education and professional development for entrepreneurs like Fran actually on this call. We know that there's an increase in consumer demand for our type of accommodation and that more and more there's opportunity to distribute and sell our type of accommodation. And that the regulatory support is critical. And from there, we'll go through our, Heidi, do you want to jump in here? Sorry, should I keep going?
Either way, just wanted to reiterate how we created STRA to truly support the self-managing short-term rental homeowner. So from our astra.org website, where we have a business directory, a full listing of all our member perks and benefits, lots of great weekly content, to our actual membership community, which you can join from our website. We have different membership tiers that suit you the best, weekly newsletters with a lot of great industry partners sharing great practices and industry intel. So we definitely invite you to check out our website and get some more info from there. So this is a quick little screenshot of our membership community. You can drill in by topics of conversation, from insurance to searching for local self-managing homeowners in your area. So a lot of great featured articles in there, upcoming events within the industry as they pertain to the self-managing homeowner. So a lot of great info. We invite you to check that out as well. And Heather's actually spearheaded a lot of our education. We do quarterly courses focusing on technology, revenue management strategies, investment strategies. They are a one-week power course taught by industry experts, and then there are weekly office hours held. So it's a great opportunity to interact with an expert, get some of that education going, and then ask some good Q&A when needed.
Yeah, and I'll just add, if you come check it out next week, actually it kicks off revenue management, and the week after that is technology toolbox. And again, this content is not just put together by us. We bring together industry experts in each area to inform the content for these courses.
Awesome. Well, we've got Bree Pope here, the head of community programs at Rent Responsibly, and she's brought some fantastic info of how they've been helping specifically in the Santa Fe market lately. So Bree, we'll let you talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Astro, you guys are amazing. This is my first event with you all. Not the first that Rent Responsibly is hosted with you all, but this is my first event. So just hearing your dedication to education as well just makes me so happy, because that's really what we're about too. So I'm Bree. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the head of community programs over at Rent Responsibly. And really what you need to know about Rent Responsibly is, oh, do you mind if we go back a couple of slides? Awesome, thank you. So we are an education and community building platform for local alliances. So think of us as kind of the training wheels when it comes to these local alliances. There's a lot of conversations being had at the local level about short-term rentals, and we provide the resources for you to have better conversations about how short-term rentals integrate into your community. And we had the just absolute privilege and honor of working with the Santa Fe Short-Term Rental Alliance as they were going through their ordinance, and they just really created a wonderful environment for alliances. So if you go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about the Santa Fe Short-Term Rental Alliance. So really, any alliance that we work with represents the good apples to City Hall. And our goal at Rent Responsibly when we work with these alliances is to really put them into a proactive versus reactive situation. I think a lot of people look at advocacy as, right when it's happening, there's an ordinance or there's, negative conversations happening about short-term rentals. But the one thing that the Santa Fe Short-Term Rental Alliance is really good at is being super proactive. So throughout their ordinance process, they were incredibly active. They were showing up to City Hall. They were having those tough conversations. They were working with the city. But also really what they're doing now is efforts to kind of help continue that conversation about short-term rentals at the local level. So they are really understanding that it's not just when there's an ordinance in place, it's not just when that's happening. Advocacy happens at all times. So we just love working with them, and they really truly are just the poster child of what an alliance should be. And you'll hear from Fran, the president of the Santa Fe Short-Term Rental Alliance, in a little bit. And we're just so grateful that we get to work with them on a regular basis.
If I could jump in, we probably could not have done it without the support of Rent Responsibly. They were really motivating. Come on, people, get on a meeting. I think looking back, I wish we had started earlier because I think we could have had more impact. I also think that, I'll never forget that December call where we probably had 80 people on a call with our city council advocating for a more reasonable ordinance. And I think had it not been COVID, maybe we wouldn't have as many people show up, but we probably could have been heard a little bit more.
Absolutely. So what does that look like in Santa Fe right now? We do have a slide as to where the short-term rental ordinance stands. And Fran, again, you were instrumental in mobilizing everyone. So right now, the regulations in Santa Fe for short-term rentals are, these, I'm not going to go through all of the bullets, but it's important to note that we see a lot of city websites on a regular basis, and we go through a lot of city websites. I will say Santa Fe's, while you can't really pick and choose what the city is choosing to do with their website, they do map it out fairly nicely. So if you have any questions or you have any resources that you want to look at, Santa Fe, nm.gov/land use. That's where you can kind of get an update of all of these bullet points here. But this ordinance passed December 9th of 2020. There were a lot of conversations to be had. It was very grassroots from what we observed, just objectively as Rent Responsibly. Lots of conversations about parking, lots of conversations about parties, and parking really kind of drove the narrative a lot of the time. So that forced kind of more of these bullet points to be, crafted. There were a lot of conversations during the city council meetings and the planning commission meetings. So the Santa Fe STRA really showed up during those conversations to help influence. What we say at Rent Responsibly a lot of the time is what we have to reframe what a win looks like. sometimes what you want versus what is good for the collective whole is a little different. So I think that just looking at this ordinance and where it stands now, I think there's a good opportunity for additional conversations to be had. But currently, right now, that's what we're looking at in terms of the regulations. Next slide. So because advocacy happens all the time, everywhere, in all different types of conversations, I want to direct everyone on the call to the right side of your screen, because tomorrow we are hosting, we are helping the Santa Fe STRA host an event with mayor candidates, candidates for mayor and city council candidates. This is going to be a really interesting town hall. And this is what we mean when we say the Santa Fe STRA is really dedicated to being proactive and being part of those conversations at the local level. They organized this event. So if you take your phone and you scan the right side of your screen, you can register for that event tomorrow. Rent Responsibly will always be here. There is a QR code here for us too. We're happy to provide resources for you, but definitely scan that code on the right side because that's the more pressing matter. And that really is going to help you understand how you can integrate into the conversation in Santa Fe. So with that, hopefully you were able to scan the QR code, and I will turn it over to the rest of the team. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Bree. That was really helpful and thorough, and it's awesome to see what's happening there with you and Fran and those that have been mobilized. Really great to see. With that, we're going to move to key data, where we talk about just overall analytics and market conditions. So Melanie, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Melanie Brown. I am the Director of Data and Analytics at Key Data. And Key Data provides data and analytics based on real-time vacation rental market data for the short-term rental industry. We gather data in two main ways. The first is directly through integrations with property management partners. That's a very rich and detailed data set, so it's what I'll be presenting today. We also scrape Airbnb and VRBO to kind of get a better overall look at the market. But again, presenting direct data today. I have a lot of graphs here. I'm just going to try to hit the highlights. And I'm not sure if this deck will be shared, but maybe it will be, and you'll be able to look at these on your own time. So right now we're looking at adjusted paid occupancy for Santa Fe, which is just the number of paid nights out of nights available to be rented.
Wow.
The blue line is 2021, orange is 2019, and the dark gray is 2020. So obviously we all know 2020 occupancy was a lot lower than 2019. Not a lot, but significantly lower than in 2019. This year though has been amazing. Santa Fe's occupancy rate in May was about 77%, which is especially great considering that's not normally one of their peak seasons. July was 83. It's kind of stayed high through the fall, which is great to see as well. This is even higher than for the region as a whole. So if we look at the Southwest, still doing really well, but hasn't seen that same huge growth that Santa Fe has. So in a good market when it comes to occupancy. If we look at the next 6 months, that light orange line I added there is where we ended up in 2019. So the final reservation or final occupancy rate as more reservations rolled in. So for example, in November, in the next 30 days, we added about 30-ish percentage points to the occupancy rate. So occupancy is pacing pretty close to the prior 2 years, but Santa Fe's booking window, so the time between making a reservation and arriving, hovers between 30 and 60 days. And so there's still plenty of time for those occupancy rates to come up as we move into the winter months. Rates are really interesting. Most markets have seen higher average daily rates, so that's the average rent per guest night, and Santa Fe definitely falls into that category. Started off this spring a little bit lower than in 2019, but then jumped way up. So in July, the average daily rate for Santa Fe was $323 compared to $240 in 2019, which is a 28%, or I can't see that exact number, but that's a big year-over-year increase. The Southwest as a whole started off a little closer together, but didn't escalate to the same extent as Santa Fe has. So rates are looking great, staying really high. It was a 35% year-over-year increase in July. I just found my notes. Moving forward, the average
Can I ask you a
rate.
question? Does this reflect, bigger houses with, or more full home rentals, or, is this a matter of the mix, or is this across the board, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Right now, this includes all the inventory for our partners in the area. So it's not broken out by bedrooms or property type at this point. We do have that data. It's always really interesting to look at. So if anybody would like to see that specifically, you can email me. I think my email is on the last screen.
Yeah, and maybe what Fran is asking too is like, has supply changed? Are there more larger homes in, on the market than in previous years too? Which I don't think you have here, Melanie, but we could get, right?
Yeah, I could get. I would say in most markets, like the average for the US has been like a 20% increase in ADR. And so if those big increases are happening for the country overall, then it's certainly not just inventory, it's higher demand. People are able to charge higher prices. So for the next 6 months, rates are staying pretty escalated through the winter, and then kind of getting back to normal for the spring, which is different from the rest of the region where rates are staying higher. Again, it'll just depend as those reservations come rolling in, what that looks like. Demand stays high, then rates can stay high as well, which is pretty great. The average booking window, which I mentioned, is the time between a guest making a reservation and arriving, was a lot lower through 2020, about 40 days shorter than in 2019, but has caught up, was a little higher than 2019 through the summer. I think just because occupancy was so high, people obviously kind of book those last minute trips, and people do tend to book summer a little further out. And then moving through the rest of the year, it gets a little crazy to look at, but just the takeaway here is the booking window does seem to be returning to pretty normal rates. And so those last minute reservations may not come rolling in quite to the same extent as they did during 2020 anymore. And then the average length of stay has been another interesting trend to look at. 2020 was a little bit higher than 2019. 2021 has been slightly higher than 2019 by about a day through the summer. We start looking towards the winter. It's a little bit higher right now. A lot of those may be holiday stays. And so that stay length probably will come down, 6-ish days as reservations continue to come in. So I know that was a lot of data, just tried to present it pretty concisely, but happy to answer any questions when we get to that section at the end of this presentation.
Thanks, Melanie. That was great. Lots of positive news in this market. And with that, I think Heidi and Fran, you guys are gonna take it from here for a little fireside chat.
Yeah, Fran, excited to have you here. Thanks so much. And love to hear a little bit about how you got started with your vacation rental in Santa Fe. And you want to speak about how many properties you have there?
Sure. Hi. So it's been an interesting journey. In 2012, I bought a house in San Francisco, honestly, up the street from Airbnb. And I started renting rooms in my San Francisco house, or when I came to Santa Fe, which is my hometown, I would rent my full San Francisco house. And that just got me thinking, I always wanted to have a house in Santa Fe. It's where I grew up. And so in 2013, I bought my first property off Garcia Street, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, really, really lovely place because it's really off Garcia Street. So sort of in its own private enclave or compound, you might call it. And in 2016, I bought the house next door, and and that's a larger one. That's a 3 bedroom, 2 bath with an office, bigger kitchen, probably another 1,000 square feet from my first one. And they both have done really well for me. The funny thing is as I started to do vacation rentals, I started to think about the way people are traveling and the way people are making money. And I started a company called Baby Quip. We deliver baby gear to traveling families. And I can tell you the trends for Baby Quip are much like what I just saw, where, we're in 600 markets. We have 800 people. They're delivering baby gear. About 50% of our business is vacation rentals. So, and we're seeing longer stays is basically what we're seeing. I love doing this. I love, I just love the hospitality aspects of it. I've had great guests. I have a lot of returning guests. When I first started my little house, I think I was charging $165 a night. Now, probably on average, it's $250 with $400 to $500 in the holiday season. I rent the two homes together for the holiday seasons, and I get, there's not too many properties where you could get 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, 2 kitchens, hot tub in the middle, and be able to walk downtown or Canyon Road. So those, I get a real premium during those periods. I just bought with a friend another condo, and she has the permit. I can't get any more permits. And it's disappointing that the city came down so hard, but I think we're going to do really, really well.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. And glad that you've been able to expand. Sounds like you've kind of addressed what some of the biggest challenges are with the new permitting process. Is there anything else that you feel is a big challenge in the area?
Yeah, I think I think the ordinance was motivated by some neighborhoods getting overly saturated. And I wish that the companies could have had some thinking, the platforms could have helped us think that through. The 7-day rule is very hard to manage. So what that means, you can only have one rental in any given 7-day period. And I think the council and the mayor kind of think that reservations come sequentially, and they don't. And so calendar management is really, really hard. That said, my occupancy rates this year have been better than ever. So it's now that I put a 5-day minimum instead of a 4-day minimum, it seems to be working out. I think the typical challenges in renting homes is, don't get burnt out on it because it could be pretty demanding. Make sure you've got the right handyman, the right cleaning crew, that you make things as easy as possible for your guests so that they don't have to call you. But this morning, and one reason I was a tiny bit late was the cable went out and I had to meet Comcast. And we all know you don't have wireless in this day and age, or it's broken. That's like a major issue. This summer, my air conditioning broke in one house and my hot water heater broke in another. I ended up having to give back a lot of money. So keeping on top of maintenance issues,
Yeah, definitely. Really good advice.
Yeah.
How about COVID? Have you seen any changes since a partial recovery has happened from the whole COVID scenario?
When COVID hit, it was interesting. In March of last year, I ended up having to give back a lot of money. With most of the people on VRBO, I only refunded 50% because I argued, hey, this happened to me and it happened to you. I wish Airbnb had given us that flexibility. I ended up renting my larger house for much lower than market during the COVID period for longer term rentals, just so I could be assured of some cash flow. Looking back, I probably didn't need to do that. But no, Santa Fe is all the way back, and we benefit honestly because Texas is such a mess and gets too hot. So most of my guests are coming from Texas, California. A lot of girl groups. I would say the biggest segments of my customers, probably 3. Older couples, vacation maybe with their children. They want to bring a dog. They're driving from Texas, Colorado. The next group would probably be people who just want to explore Santa Fe, maybe younger people. Girls groups would be in that. So, I have now a whole section on how to have a good girls group get together in Santa Fe. And then during the ski season, you'll see more families trying to ski. So Santa Fe, I think now is a 4-season destination. There's something, the city has done a real nice job of having a lot of festivals and events throughout the year. Last weekend, for example, was the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival. The winter in the skiing, December, there's a lot going on. The fall is gorgeous. And I think the only time period, and you touched on this, is May, April, May. Santa Fe doesn't have the best spring. It could be windy and muddy and cold and so on, but rentals still are coming.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you. Really appreciate that perspective from the homeowner side. So thank you, Fran. I think, Heather, we're going to jump into speaking with our real estate expert.
Yeah, CJ, welcome. CJ is Director of Real Estate for Vacasa, and maybe we can jump right in. CJ, tell us a little bit about what you do and what have you seen the investment property climate like, especially in this area?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today. In addition to being the Director of Real Estate, I am also the broker for New Mexico. So I know a little bit about short-term rentals there, not as much as Fran, but I can tell you what we see here. As far as the second home and investment property climate, as you can imagine, that has been hot. I'll back this up and say Vacasa is the largest property management company in the US. So we have a lot of data that we base our findings on. So that's a lot of what I'm going to be speaking to. The second home market has been super hot. As we've been listing homes, they immediately have multiple offers. A lot of times they never hit the market because we have investors on point waiting for us to connect them with owners to purchase. Of course, prices are still high. They're starting to level out in a lot of markets. So buyers are going to pay a premium. And for now, they are justifying that since net rev seems to make sense and make those prices acceptable. I think that trend is going to continue for a few reasons. And I'll speak to that in a few minutes. One of the scenarios we see is owners occupying their properties for extended periods of time, which is very interesting to me and to all of Vacasa because they will cancel bookings to stay where they want to play, I guess, and they can work from anywhere. So I'm going to talk about that again in just a second. I think one of the most critical things in getting the right property is finding the right agent. You really want to hire an agent that has experience in obtaining historical data as well as providing the correct income projections. The best practice for this is to always ask them to provide a list of the second home and vacation rentals they've sold. Don't be shy with that because they are basically applying for the job of working with you to find the best investment. A lot of agents do not have short-term rental second home experience. That's one of our challenges we have at Vacasa is that we're approached a lot of times by buyers who are in the midst of purchasing a home and they got incorrect information from an agent who knows nothing about short-term rentals or short-term rental market. I think it's pretty amazing. This was mentioned earlier that Santa Fe has a great resource on their city government page. Whether you agree or disagree with it is not a factor. So there is some amazing information there. And most agents don't even know that that exists. So finding an agent is key and don't be in a hurry to buy the right property because it will pop up when it's meant to be. That's a CJ thought process. Lastly, as far as short-term rental opportunities, some trends that we've seen, the Zoom boom. People can work from anywhere when they're working from home. And it seems that they're very happy to work in places like Santa Fe, Palm Springs, California. So we've seen our rates drive up, exactly what Melanie's statistics were showing, as well as our bookings have increased for longer term rentals. I did a little bit of research and I saw that Santa Fe has a deficit of over 7,000 traditional rentals, apartments, condos, single family, whatever. I don't know how that's really affecting Santa Fe's rental rates and bookings, but that does affect a lot of our markets where people can't find a traditional rental. So they'll rent short-term rentals. Sometimes they bounce around from property to property, which is a very interesting concept. And then sometimes they'll do a long-term rental or seasonal is what we call them at Vacasa. And I can really see this trend continuing through 2022.
Thanks. That was great. Yeah, that digital nomad, and that was a term we've heard used, read about to describe that work from anywhere concept and going after those longer stays. So, which kind of related, I think, too, to what Fran was saying. She's seeing the ability to get these longer stays and improve her overall occupancy.
One thing I think we should point out is that ordinance does not impact the county. So there's sections of Santa Fe that are not within the city limits in Santa Fe County, and also in the commercial zones. So you'd have to be really, the commercial zones, I'm sure CJ knows more about those, but those represent another opportunity for people.
That's really great. Great comment. Yeah, like, and to that point, right, and really knowing what's possible in a market, city center or county level, how important that is. Yeah, thanks for that, Fran. Well, with that, we're just a few minutes over. We actually did a good job of pretty much staying on time. And I don't know, Heidi, if you looked in the chat or if there are any other questions from the group.
I haven't seen anything come through quite yet, but I did want to ask CJ about that resource you mentioned for real estate agents to help. Was there a website, or how do people get more info if they're looking for help there?
Well, I was really referring to the Santa Fe short-term rental website that's attached to their government, city government. But Vacasa.com does have great resources for buyers that specifically point out a lot of opportunities and obstacles to purchasing short-term rentals. We have a lot of data that's available that we can share with buyers in every market. So if anybody's interested, they can go right to the Vacasa.com website and reach out to one of our experts in a specific market for purchasing, or just moving into the property management portion of Vacasa.
I would also like to add that there's apparently only 50 permits left.
Wow, that is really
interesting. So if you're thinking about doing it, that might accelerate your time frame.
And that's in the city center, right? Because county is different.
Yeah, for the Santa Fe permit. That being said, my son has a property in a homeowners association that does not allow short-term rentals. I do think that's rather short-sighted of them, but he can rent 30 days plus, and occupancy for him has been very, very good.
Yeah, and still able to get people staying for like 30 nights.
Yeah. Overall, you make more money if you could do more short-term, but he does pretty well. It certainly covers the cost and then some.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, with that, I think we need to close it out. I didn't see any last questions. Oh, we did get a question about channels. I don't know if you want to answer that quickly, Fran. Is there a certain?
Well, yes. The question is, what channels does he use to market his property for longer term stays? He's mostly using Airbnb and Vrbo, and it's worked out fine for him. When I was doing my longer term stay, I also used Zillow, and for my Zillow rentals seems to, and they repost on a bunch of other sites. So I've had good luck with that. Very inexpensive.
Yeah, I would agree. I've seen that work in some markets too. Well, thank you all, Melanie, Bree, CJ, Fran, Heidi. Thank you all for this. And we'll be back next month with another roadshow to New Orleans. So looking forward to that.
Oh, that's my hometown. So I'll be sure to tune in.
Okay,
Thank you.
awesome. Thanks all. Have a great rest of the day and good luck with the event tomorrow too, Bree and Fran. Thank you again for doing that. All right. Talk soon. Bye now.